Who do you want to be?
Who do you want to be?
It's a simple question, and whether you know it or not,
It's a simple question, and whether you know it or not,
you're answering it every day
you're answering it every day
through your actions.
through your actions.
This one question will define your professional success
This one question will define your professional success
more than any other.
more than any other.
Because how you show up and treat people
Because how you show up and treat people
means everything.
means everything.
Either you lift people up
Either you lift people up
by respecting them,
by respecting them,
making them feel valued, appreciated,
making them feel valued and appreciated
and heard.
and heard.
Or you hold people down by making them feel small,
Or you hold people down by making them feel small,
insulted,
insulted,
disregarded,
disregarded,
or excluded.
or excluded.
And who you choose to be means everything.
And who you choose to be means everything.
I study the effects of incivility on people.
I studied the effects of incivility on people.
What is incivility?
What is incivility?
It's disrespect or rudeness.
It's disrespect and rudeness.
It includes a lot of different behaviors,
It includes a lot of different behaviors,
from mocking or belittling someone,
from mocking or belittling someone,
to teasing people in ways that sting,
to teasing people in ways that sting,
to telling offensive jokes,
to telling offensive jokes,
to texting in meetings.
to texting and meeting, to texting in meetings.
And what's uncivil to one person may be absolutely fine to another.
And what is uncivil to one person makes absolutely fine to another. Maybe absolutely fine to another.
Take texting while someone's speaking to you.
Take texting while someone's speaking to you.
Some of us may find it rude.
Some of us may find it rude.
Others may think it's absolutely civil.
And others may think it's absolutely civil.
So it really depends. It's all in the eyes of the beholder.
So it really depends. It's all in the eyes of the beholder,
And whether that person felt disrespected.
and whether the person felt disrespected.
We may not mean to make someone feel that way,
We may not mean to make someone feel that way,
but when we do, it has consequences.
but when we do, it has consequences.
Over 22 years ago, I vividly recall walking into this stuffy hospital room.
Over 22 years ago, I vividly recall walking into this stuffy hospital room.
It was heartbreaking to see my dad, this strong, athletic, energetic guy,
It was heartbreaking to see my dad, the strong, athletic, and energetic guy,
lying in the bed with electrodes strapped to his bare chest.
lying in the bed with electrodes strapped to his chest.
What put him there was work-related stress.
What put him there is work-related stress.
For over a decade, he suffered an uncivil boss.
Over a decade, he suffered uncivil boss.
And for me, I thought he was just an outlier at that time.
And for me, I thought he was just an outlier at the time. Other people, things, or facts that it cannot be used to draw outlier. Outlier.
But just a couple years later, I witnessed and experienced a lot of incivility.
But just a couple of years later, I witnessed and experienced a lot of incivility
In my first job out of college.
in my first job out of college.
I spent a year going to work every day and
I spent a year going to work every day
hearing things from coworkers like,
and hearing things from coworkers like,
"Are you an idiot?
"Are you an idiot?
That's not how it's done."
That's not how it's done."
And if I wanted your opinion, I'd ask.
And if I wanted opinion, I'd ask.
So I did the natural thing.
So I did the natural thing.
I quit.
I quit.
And I went back to grad school to study the effects of this.
And I went to grad school to study the effects of this.
And there I met Christine Pearson.
And there I met Kristen Pearson.
And she had a theory that small, uncivil actions can lead to much bigger problems.
She had a theory that small, uncivil action can lead to much bigger problems.
Like aggression and violence.
And aggression and violence.
We believed that incivility affected performance in the bottom line.
We believe incivility affects performance in the bottom line.
So we launched a study, and what we found was eye-opening.
And so we launched the study, and what we found was eye-opening.
We sent a survey to business school alumni working in all different organizations.
We sent a survey to business school alumni working in all different organizations.
And we asked them to write a few sentences
And we asked them to write a few sentences
about one experience where they were treated rudely,
about one experience where they were treated rudely,
disrespectfully, or
disrespectfully,
insensitively,
or insensitively,
and to answer questions about how they reacted.
and answer questions about how they reacted.
One person told us about a boss that made insulting statements like,
One person told us about his boss making insulting statements like,
"That's kindergartner's work."
"That's kindergarten's work."
And another tore up someone's work in front
And another tore up someone's work
of the entire team.
tore up someone's work.
And what we found is that incivility made people less motivated.
And what we found is that incivility made the people less motivated.
66% cut back work efforts.
66% cut back work efforts.
80% lost time worrying about what happened. And
80% lost time worrying about what happened.
12% left their job.
12% left their jobs.
And after we published these results,
And after we published these results,
two things happened.
two things happened.
One, we got calls from organizations.
One, we got calls from organizations.
Cisco read about these numbers, took just a few of these,
Cisco read about these numbers. It took just a few of this
and estimated conservatively
and estimated conservatively
incivility was costing them $12 million a year.
Incivility was costing them $12 million a year.
The second thing that happened was that we heard from others in our academic field.
The second thing that happened that we heard from others in our academic field
Who said, well, people are reporting this, but how can you really show it?
who said, people are reporting this, but how can you really show it?
Does people's performance really suffer?
Does people's performance really suffer?
I was curious about that too.
I was curious about that too.
With Amir Erez, I compared those that experience incivility to those that didn't experience incivility.
With the mirror, I compare those experiencing incivility with those who to those who didn't experience incivility.
And what we found is that those that experience incivility
And what we found is that those who experience incivility
do actually function much worse.
do actually function much worse.
Okay, you may say, this makes sense.
Okay, you may say this makes sense.
After all, it's natural that their performance suffers.
After all, it's natural their performance suffers.
But what about if you're not the one who experiences it?
But what about you're not the one who experiences it? Who experiences it? Not the one who experiences it.
What if you just see or hear it?
What if you just see or hear it?
You're a witness. We wondered if it affected witnesses too.
We wonder if it affected witnesses too.
So we conducted studies where 5 participants would witness an experimenter act rudely to someone who arrived late to the study.
So we conducted studies where 5 participants would witness an experimenter act rudely to someone who arrived late to the study.
The experimenter said, "What is it with you?"
The experimenter said, what is it with you?
You arrive late.
You
You're
arrive late.
irresponsible.
You're
Look
irresponsible.
at you.
Look at you.
How do you expect to hold a job in the real world?
How do you expect to hold a job in the real world?
And in another study in a small group, we
And in another study in a small group,
tested the effects of a peer
we tested the effects of peer
insulting a group member.
insulting a group member.
Now, what we found was really interesting
And what we found was really interesting
because witnesses' performance decreased too,
because witnesses' performances decreased too.
and not just marginally, quite significantly.
Not just marginally, quite significantly.
Incivility is a bug.
Incivility is a bug.
It's contagious,
It's contagious.
and we become carriers of it
And we become carriers of it
just by being around it.
just by being around it.
And this isn't confined to the workplace.
And this isn't confined to the workplace.
We can catch this virus anywhere,
We can catch this virus everywhere.
at home, online, in schools, and in our communities. It affects our emotions, our motivation, our performance,
It affects our emotion, motivation, and performance,
and how we treat others.
and how we treat others.
It even affects our attention and can take some of our brain power.
It even affects our attention and takes some of our brain power.
And this happens not only if we experience incivility or
And this happens not only if we experience instability
we witness it.
or witness it.
It can happen even if we just see or read rude words.
It can happen even if we just see or read rude words.
Let me give you an example of what I mean.
Let me give you an example of what I mean.
To test this, we gave people combinations of words to use to make a sentence.
To test this, we give people a combination of words to make a sentence.
But we were very sneaky.
But we are very sneaky.
Half the participants got a list with 15 words used to trigger rudeness.
Half percent of the participants got a list of words used to trigger rudeness.
Impolitely, interrupt,
Impolitely, interrupt,
obnoxious,
bother.
Half the participants received a list of words with none of these rude triggers.
Half of the participants received a list of words with none of these rude triggers.
And what we found was really surprising because the people who got the rude words were 5 times more likely to miss information right
were 5 times more likely to miss information
in front of them on
Right.
the computer screen.
right in front of them on the computer screen.
And as we continued this research,
And as we continue this research,
what we found is that those that read the rude words
what we found is that those who read the rude words
took longer to make decisions,
took longer to make decisions,
to record their decisions,
to record their decisions,
and they made significantly more errors.
and they make And they may significantly make more errors.
This can be a big deal,
This can be a big deal,
especially when it comes to life and death situations.
especially when it comes to life and death situation.
Steve, a physician, told me about a doctor that he worked with who
Steve, a physician, told me about a doctor he worked with,
was never very respectful,
who was never very respectful,
especially to junior staff and nurses.
especially to junior staff and nurses.
But Steve told me about this one particular interaction
But Steve told me about this one particular interaction
where this doctor shouted at a medical team.
where the doctor shouted at a medical team.
Right after the interaction,
Right after the interaction,
the team gave the wrong dosage of medication to their patient.
the team gave the wrong dosage of medication to the patient.
Steve said the information was right there on the chart,
Steve said the information was right there on the chart,
but somehow everyone on the team missed it.
but somehow everyone on the team missed it.
He said they lacked the attention or awareness
He said that they lack the attention or awareness
to take it into account.
to take it into account.
Simple mistake, right?
Simple mistake, right?
Well, that patient died.
Where the patient died. Well, the patient died.
Researchers in Israel have actually shown
Researchers in Israel have actually shown
that medical teams exposed to rudeness
that medical teams exposed to rudeness
perform worse not only in all their diagnostics,
perform worse not only in all their diagnostics,
but in all the procedures they did.
but in all the procedures they did.
This was mainly because the teams exposed to rudeness
This is mainly because the team's exposure to rudeness
didn't share information as readily,
didn't share information as readily,
and they stopped seeking help from their teammates.
and they stopped seeking help from their teammate.
And I see this not only in medicine, but
And I see this not only in medicine
in all industries.
but in all industries.
So if incivility has such a huge cost,
So incivility has such a huge cost.
why do we still see so much of it?
Why do we still see so much of it?
I was curious, so we surveyed people about this too.
I was curious, so we survey people about this too.
The number one reason
The number one reason
is stress.
is stress.
People feel overwhelmed.
People feel overwhelmed.
The other reason that people are not more civil is because they're skeptical
The other reason people are not more civil is because they're skeptical
and even concerned
and
about
even concerned
being civil or
about being civil
appearing nice.
or appearing nice.
They believe they'll appear less leader-like.
They believe they appear less leader-like.
They wonder, do nice guys finish last?
They wonder, do nice guy finish last?
Or in other words, do jerks get ahead?
Or in other words, do jerks get ahead?
It's easy to think so,
It's easy to think so,
especially when we see a few prominent examples
especially when we see a few prominent examples
that dominate the conversation.
that dominate the conversation.
Well, it turns out in the long run,
It turns out in the long run,
they don't.
they don't.
There's really rich research on this by
There's really research on this by
Morgan McCall and Michael Lombardo when they were at the Center for Creative Leadership. And they found the number one reason tied to executive failure
and they found that the number of reasons tied to executive failure
was an insensitive, abrasive, or bullying style.
was an insensitive, abrasive, or bullying style.
There will always be some outliers that
There were always some outliers
succeed despite their incivility.
that succeed in spite of their incivility.
Sooner or later, though, most uncivil people sabotage their success.
Sooner or later, though, most uncivil people sabotage their success.
For example, with uncivil executives, it comes back to hurt them
For example, with uncivil executives, it comes back to hurt them
when they're in a place of weakness or they
when they're in a place of weakness
need something.
or need something.
People won't have their backs.
People won't have their backs.
But what about nice guys?
But what about nice guys?
Does civility pay?
Does civility pay?
Yes,
Yes,
it does.
It does.
And being civil doesn't just mean that you're not a jerk.
Being civil doesn't just mean you are not a jerk.
Not holding someone down isn't the same as lifting them up.
Not holding someone down isn't the same as lifting them up.
Being truly civil means doing the small things,
Being truly civil is doing the small things,
like smiling and saying hello in the hallway,
like smiling and saying hello in the hallway,
listening fully when
listening fully
someone's speaking to you.
when someone's speaking to you.
Now, you can have strong opinions, disagree, have conflict, or
You can have a strong opinion, disagree, or have conflict,
give negative feedback
or give negative feedback
civilly.
civilly,
with respect.
with respect.
Some people call it radical candor.
Some people call radical candor. Radical candor,
Where you care personally, but you challenge directly.
where you care personally but challenge directly. Radical candor. Radical candor.
So yes, civility pays.
So yes, civility pays.
In a biotechnology firm,
In a biotechnology firm,
colleagues and I found that those that were seen as civil were
those who are seen as civil
twice as likely to be viewed as leaders,
were twice likely to be viewed as leaders,
and they performed significantly better.
and they perform significantly better.
Why does civility pay?
Why does civility pay?
Because people see you as an important
Because people see you as an important
and a powerful, unique combination of two key characteristics:
unique combination of two key characteristics:
warm and competent,
warm and competent, warm and competent,
friendly and smart.
friendly and smart.
In other words, being civil isn't just about motivating others.
In other words, being civil isn't just about motivating others.
It's about you.
It's about you.
If you're civil, you're more likely to be seen as a leader.
If you are civil, you are more likely to be seen as a leader.
You'll perform better, and you're seen as warm and competent.
You perform better, and you're seen as warm and competent.
But there's an even bigger story about how civility pays.
But there's an even bigger story about how civility pays,
And it ties to one of the most important questions around leadership.
and it ties to one of the most important questions around leadership.
What do people want most from their leaders?
What do people most want from the leaders?
We took data from over 20,000 employees around the world,
We took data from over 20,000 employees around the world,
and we found the answer was simple:
and we found the answer was simple:
respect.
respect.
Being treated with respect
Being treated with the respect
was more important than
is more important
recognition and appreciation,
than recognition and appreciation,
useful feedback,
useful feedback,
even opportunities for learning.
and even opportunities for learning.
Those that felt respected
Those that felt respected
were healthier, more focused,
were healthier, more focused,
more likely to stay with their organization,
more likely to stay with the organization,
and far more engaged.
far more engaged.
So where do you start?
So where do you
How
start?
can you lift people up
How
and
can you lift people up
make people feel respected?
and make people feel respected?
Well, the nice thing is it doesn't require a huge shift.
And the nice thing is that it doesn't require a huge shift.
Small things can make a big difference.
Small things can make a huge difference.
I found that thanking people, sharing credit, listening attentively,
I found that thanking people, sharing credit, and listening attentively,
humbly asking questions,
humbly asking questions,
acknowledging others,
acknowledging others,
and smiling
and
has an
smiling
impact.
has an impact.
Patrick Quinlan, former CEO of Ochsner Healthcare, told me about the effects of their 10-5 way, where if you're within 10 feet of someone,
Where if you're within 10 feet of someone,
you make eye contact
you make
and
eye contact
smile.
and smile.
And if you're within 5 feet,
And if you're within 5 feet,
you say hello.
hello.
He explained that civility spread,
He explained the civility spread,
patient satisfaction scores rose,
patient satisfaction score rose,
as did patient referrals.
as did patient referrals.
Civility and respect can be used to boost an organization's performance.
Civility and respect can be used to boost the organization's performance.
When my friend Doug Conant took over as CEO of Campbell's Soup Company in
Took over as CEO, took over as his,
2001, the company's market share had just dropped in half.
the company's market share just dropped in half.
Sales were declining.
Sales were declining.
Lots of people had just been laid off.
Lots of people had just been laid off.
A Gallup manager said it was the least engaged organization that they had surveyed.
That is the least engaged organization that they've surveyed.
And as Doug drove up to work his first day,
And as Doug drove up to work the first day,
he noticed that the headquarters was surrounded by barbed wire fence.
he noticed that the headquarters was surrounded by barbed wire fences.
There were guard towers in the parking lot.
There were guard towers in the parking lot.
He said it looked like a minimum security prison.
He said it looked like a minimum security prison.
It felt toxic.
It felt toxic.
Within 5 years, Doug had turned things around.
Within 5 years, Doug had turned things around.
And within 9 years, they were setting all-time performance records and racking up awards, including Best Place to Work.
And within 9 years, they were setting all-time performance records, all-time performance set records, and racking up awards, including Best Place to Work.
How did he do it?
How did he do it?
On day one, Doug told employees
On day one, Doug told an employee
that he was going to have high standards for performance,
he was going to have the high standards for performance,
but they were going to do it with civility.
but they were going to do it with civility.
He walked the talk,
He walked the talk,
and he expected his leaders to.
and he expected his leaders to.
For Doug, it all came down to being tough-minded on standards
It all came down to being tough-minded on standards
and tender-hearted with people.
and tender-hearted with people. Tough-minded on standards and tender-hearted with people.
And for him, he said it was all about these touch points,
For him, he said it's all about these touch points.
or these daily interactions he had with employees,
These daily interactions he had with the employees,
whether in the hallway,
whether in the hallway,
in the cafeteria,
in the cafeteria,
or in meetings.
or in meetings.
And if he handled each touch point well,
And if he handled each touch point well,
he'd make employees feel valued.
he make employees feel valued.
Another way that Doug made employees feel valued
Another way Doug did to make employees feel valued,
and showed them that he was paying attention
he showed them that he was paying attention.
is that he hand wrote over 30,000 thank you notes to employees.
He hand wrote over 30,000 thank you notes to employees.
And this set an example for other leaders.
And this set an example for other leaders.
Leaders have about 400 of these touch points a day.
Leaders have about 400 of these touch points every day.
Most don't take long,
Most don't take long,
less than 2 minutes each.
less than 2 minutes each.
The key is to be agile and mindful in
The key is to be agile and mindful
each of these moments.
in each of these moments.
Civility lifts people.
Civility lifts people.
We'll get people to give more and
We'll get people to give more
function at their best
and function at their best
if we're civil.
if we are civil.
Incivility chips away at people and their performance.
Incivility chips away at people and their performance.
It robs people of their potential,
It robs people of their potential,
even if they're just working around it.
even if they're just walking around it.
What I know from my research is that when we have more civil environments,
What I know from my research is that when we have more civil environments,
we're more productive,
we're more productive,
creative,
helpful,
happy, and healthy.
and healthy.
We can do better.
We can do better.
Each one of us
Each
can
one of
be
us
more mindful
Can be more
and
mindful.
can take actions to lift others up around us.
You can take actions to lift others up around us.
At work,
At work,
at home,
at home,
online, in schools, and in our communities. In every interaction, think, who do you want to be?
Who do you want to be?
Let's put an end to the incivility bug and
Let's put an end to this incivility bug
start spreading civility.
and start spreading civility.
After all, it pays.
After all, it pays.
Thank you.